You're listening to The Tales We Tell, a podcast about spooky stories, unsolved mysteries, and local lore. I'm your host, Hannah Parch.
And I'm Katie.
Welcome back.
Yes, I was very welcome.
Oh, what a silly day. Katie's, we haven't had any, before mic chatting time.
Yeah. So I had an interesting weekend.
Tell me about it, and I'll tell you about mine.
So we went up to the cabin this weekend, and Shelton and I drove separately because he had to go up to Richmond to pick up our couch, and then he was going to drive from Richmond to the cabin, and I was driving from home to the cabin. I had the boy and one of the dogs.
Okay.
I'm driving. It's like a 4.5 hour drive with a stop. I make it 3 hours.
Nice.
Stop at this small town. I'm like, it's time to stop for a diaper change and a bottle. And I'm going to stop at this gas station that we stop at a lot that sells the best cake ever.
Ooh, love a cake stop.
And I was like, this will be great. I'm going to stop, change the boy's diaper, give him a bottle. We'll go in, we'll get some cake, and I'll surprise Shelton with our favorite cake.
Oh, that's nice of you, because my first thought was just get cake for the road cake.
Nah,
Okay.
This is cabin cake.
Okay.
We've had road cake before, and that was the first time we had it, but then we were like, well, we need to stop on the way to the cabin.
Smart.
Anyhow.
Okay.
Everything's going great.
Great.
Get the cake. Get the boy back in the car. The car, we're on the road, and I am like 2 minutes from the gas station when a light on my dash comes on, a check engine light, and it says something about emissions or whatever. And I'm
Those are the most vague lights ever.
But it says on my little screen the check engine light, and then it
nice.
pops up on a little notification check emissions system or something like that.
Still vague. What does that mean?
I have no idea.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, that's not good. And as I'm freaking out about that, 3 more lights pop up.
Oh, fun.
And these are 3 lights that will every now and then will come on, and I just have to pull over, turn off the car, give it a minute, and then turn it back on.
Right, reset.
And it's fine.
Okay.
And one of them is every now and then if I'm off-roading or if I hit a patch of loose gravel or something and the car kind of
Is
shakes.
it your traction light?
So one of them is the vehicle dynamics control system.
Okay. Fancy.
But then, so I'm like, okay, well, these 3 I've seen before. Check engine light is new and not ideal. It's also odd that after driving perfectly fine for 3 hours, now it wants to act all wackadoodle.
Right.
And then, the cruise control symbol on the dash is flashing, and I'm like,
oh, that's
off,
weird.
Off. And it's not responding. So I pull over and I do my thing. I try turning it off and turning it back on again.
Now, did you check, since you stopped at a gas station, did you check to make sure that an escaped murderer did not get into the back of your car?
There was no room for an escaped murderer.
Okay, I was just checking.
I was loaded down with baby and dog.
Okay, I'm just making sure because we covered it recently.
Valid, and this is a sketchy area. Not area, but the gas station is real dinky and a little sketchy looking. But those are the best places, though, the little hole in the walls. So, pull over, turn it off, turn it on again. And I'm like, okay, get back on the road. All the lights come back on. I'm like, okay. And then another one comes on that's at oil temp or something, or AT oil temp. And I'm like, okay, well, that one makes me nervous because if my oil temperature is getting too hot, that could be a problem.
Right. Anything with the oil scares me.
So I call Shelton. I do a Google, and I'm like, he's like, well, maybe your coolant is low or there's a leak or something. But also, I just spent a large sum of money getting the sway bars replaced on my car earlier. It was an issue with my tires, my wheels.
You've said so many words about cars that I don't understand.
I've had a crash course this weekend.
Sway bars. And...
but yeah, I just spent a lot of money getting my car repaired.
Okay.
On Monday or Tuesday.
Okay.
It's now Friday, and Shelton's like, well, maybe when they were doing work on the car, it accidentally tripped some sensors or something. Yeah. I'm like, sure, maybe, but why several days later.
And several hundred miles into this
and now
trip.
all of a sudden now. So I pull over and I'm like, yeah, it could be a transmission or a coolant issue or just something else. And I realize I'm not far from an O'Reilly's. Like, maybe I'll just go see if I need a coolant top off. I go in there, I talk to the guys, and they're like, we don't diagnose things here. I'm like, I know, but like, can you look at
help?
the coolant?
Yeah.
And he was like, no, it's totally full. Your overflow reservoir is fine. And I'm like, all right. So I've got all these lights on my dash. And he's like, well, here. And he plugs the little computer in there. And he's like, yeah, it's something with your transmission. And I'm like, that's not good. Okay. And then, so, realize...
Don't you love when people like that are, like, just intentionally unhelpful?
Oh, yeah. They were very obtuse. And I'm like...
Yeah, you're like...
I am a woman with a small child standing here saying I need help, and you guys don't want to help me.
Hi, I'm far away from home with my infant baby. Like, could you help me? Like, what do you... Okay, I'll just stay in my car, I guess, and not go anywhere.
So, turns out there's a Subaru dealership another 30 minutes down the road, thankfully also in, like, the right direction to the cabin.
Good.
I'm like, okay, I can probably make it to, like, other than... It feeling like the RPMs are a little higher than normal. Like, it doesn't seem dangerously high. It just seems to be a little wonky driving, but it's not making any weird noises. There's no smells. There's no smoke. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to push it. Get to the dealership, and I really did look pitiful. It's me with my infant child and a dog in the back wearing a cone.
Oh.
Like, everything.
You got the wonky dog, too.
So, they pull the car back, and he's like, yeah, everything's fine, it's just old codes. It probably was, I just cleared the history, it probably was just, when they worked on your tires, but everything else looks good. And I was like, okay. And he's like, if they come back on, you can always come back, but, so, I get in the car, and I get down the road, like, I'm driving for maybe a minute, and all the lights come back on. And I'm like, well, I'm right here. I come back, I walk back in, and I'm like, they all came back on. Dashboard lit up like a Christmas tree. And so they pull it back, and he's looking at it again, and he's like, okay, so this for some reason didn't come up the first time I looked through the codes, but this is the transmission issue, something about whatever. And I was like, yeah, that was the code that the guy at O'Reilly's said. And he's like, well, when he looked it up, he probably cleared the code, and that's why I didn't see it the first time.
Right.
I was like, okay, that makes sense. Right. Turns out, basically, it's an issue with the brain of my transmission, so not... because everything's computers now.
Right, of course.
And so, thankfully, it's not the transmission itself.
Right.
It's just this one part that needs to be replaced. This one part runs between $800 to $900.
Oh, that's fun.
So I'm looking at sinking another large sum of money into fixing my car. And, but thankfully he's like this is an ASAP problem, not an immediate problem.
Oh, that's good.
I was like, so I can drive the rest of the way to the cabin and then drive back home to my town. And he's like, oh yeah, I've seen people drive like this for 6 months while they save up the money for the fix. And I'm like, okay, well, probably not going to do 6 months, but nice to know that I can get home.
Yeah.
And so, we moved the car seat over to the Shelton's truck.
Right.
Because I didn't want to be, I didn't want the situation to get worse.
Right.
And then be stuck with a child and a dog. Because that was a harrowing, stressful situation. And things got worse on the way home. After driving for about 2 hours.
Without a baby.
Just with one dog. A new light popped up.
Oh, gosh.
And this one had the little oil symbol, and it said something about oil temp, and I'm like, oh, great. Or no, not oil, like oil levels low. And I'm like, okay, I've already got check engine, oil temp, and now I've got oil levels low. And I'm like right at the mileage due for an oil change.
Can you just put more oil in it?
That was... The first thing is like, okay, well, I'm going to pull over, let the engine cool down for a few minutes, check the level of the oil. If it's low, I will top it off. If not, it's probably just the zombie dead brain
the
of my transmission,
the
because that's why he explained the other random codes, like the hill start assist and the vehicle dynamics. Basically, it's just my transmission's brain was having a meltdown, and it's just throwing more codes than a Mardi Gras float throwing beads. So yeah, I had to stop several times to let my car just cool down.
Yeah.
Anytime that oil level thing would be low.
Yeah. So. Was your oil low? Mm-mm. Oh, okay. That's fun.
Best I could tell. Everything looked fine.
It's a fun game that your car is playing.
Yep. Because, I mean, even the guy at O'Reilly's, when I checked on Friday, he even looked to see if there was maybe something going on with my oil, and he was like, oil looks good. It didn't look like burned or oiled or anything, so...
What a fun time for you.
So I'm probably going to be shopping for a new car soon.
Great. Well, me too. So, I mean...
I did think of you.
Well...
so I'll probably be going to, dropping the baby at daycare tomorrow and then going straight to the dealership now that we're home so that they can give me a shuttle ride home if I need it, or... might have to have a rental car. Who knows how long it'll take to fix. He said it's an easy, fix.
Yeah.
Because when they gave the quote was for like $1,200, but he was like, that's basically all the part. Like this part, like it's $800 to $900. He said, and the labor was relatively easy. Mm-hmm. And honestly, he was like, even if you know a little bit about cars. If you got the part, Shelton could probably fix it. But it's like a Subaru exclusive part that you'd have to order through Subaru, and it's just do it at the dealer. Just get them to fix it. So what's your embarrassing story?
My embarrassing story is that yesterday, Jarek and I went to a lovely local coffee shop. Mm-hmm. So I could finish writing this episode. And we were walking back to our car, and I just did that thing where I just forgot how to walk and just rolled my ankle and then just fell over. just stepped wrong. My ankle went out and then I couldn't recover, and so just my entire body went down onto the sidewalk in front of a bunch of people. And I had to do that quick recovery and pretend everything was fine, but I actually skinned my knee and was very embarrassed.
I did a similar thing recently. Not to that extent. I recovered a lot quicker. I was at the gym and I was on my way out, and I was walking along the line of all the treadmills. Mm-hmm. And of course, being, a slave to all distractions, I got distracted by the TVs, and I walked into a pole. I didn't walk head first into it. Yeah. Like, it was enough that I hit my shoulder and it kind of threw me off course. And I was like, I just thought, I'm like, you know what? I hope a bunch of people saw that. And I hope they got a giggle out of it. And I hope it made their day, a little bit better. That they could at least look back and be like, I saw something really funny. I saw some chick run into a pole today. So.
Yeah, I texted Jenna and Cox about it later to tell them, and Jenna was like, oh my gosh, how's your ankle? And I was like, fuck my ankle.
We're talking about my pride here.
It's like, it's fine. I was like, but the point is I can never walk on that street again, and I like that coffee shop a lot. I'm actually going back there tomorrow. So that was my and now I have a boo-boo on my knee. And I started going back to Lyra classes, which I think I talked about it on the podcast because I did it
once or twice
a year ago.
Yep.
The timing is much better now because we're not recording on weekdays anymore for the most part.
Yeah.
Also, these classes don't meet on Thursdays, even if we were.
And also, your work hours are better.
My work hours are better, and I'm not emotionally and physically defeated at the end of the day.
That helps.
Yeah, and these classes are less expensive, and I like the environment more. So I started going. Somehow I ended up with bruises on my knees, which are not places that you get bruises from Lyra. So I'm already bruised on my knees and very sore in general, and then I also scraped up a knee, and I was like, I just falling apart. And then Jarek ran into the back of me with a shopping cart today while we were at Walmart, and the whole thing. So that was one of my announcements, was just to announce that I fell in front of a bunch of people. And I'm hoping by telling the story that it becomes less embarrassing. Like the time I high-fived the lady at work who was just like waving at me.
Like I said, just embrace it and hope that other people got a kick out of it and it made their day.
Yeah.
Because maybe one day you're going to be sitting outside the coffee shop and you're going to see somebody else fall down and you're going to laugh. And it'll make you feel better.
I saved a lizard at that coffee shop. I went to plug in, not this past time, but the time before. Mm-hmm. I went to plug in my laptop, and there was a little, I don't know if it's a gecko or, the little lizards that we get here.
It's probably an anole.
I don't like that name.
Yeah, Ellie.
It sounds ominous. It scared me at first, obviously, and so Jarek caught it in a cup and put it outside. Yeah, but it was brown, not green.
Well, that's a brown anole.
Okay, a brown, sorry.
In Singapore, they call them chit-chits.
Ooh, chit-chit. Well, we put it outside, but we were sitting at the window, and so we watched it, and then Jarek was like, it's running out into the street. And I was like, well, I didn't save it just so it could get hit by a car.
Yeah, you did.
So I ran out there and caught it again and put it on a tree. So hopefully...
It's been eaten by something now.
Or it froze to death because it got cold. Well, anyway, I have an official announcement here. I'm sorry, my brain's fried. We'd also just finished watching the Bills game against Miami, which was needlessly stressful. Supposed to be an easy win. 'Twas not an easy win. Mm-hmm. 'Twas very stressful. So my announcement is a shout out to a new listener, Tony, that I think we forwarded you the email.
Yes.
Okay. Tony was so nice. They listened to all of our episodes, which
is impressive.
So tickled when people do that. And then they also gave very detailed and lovely feedback, like by episode number, which I love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because when my dad gives feedback, he just texts out of nowhere, like either confirming a fact that we said or expanding on something. And I'm like, you're like 5 episodes behind, and I have no idea what you're talking about.
Tony also requested that Katie tells more jokes.
I'm working on it.
So
some episodes are a lot easier than others, and sometimes I just don't like just making jokes about the episode, but also, he specifically mentioned my cow joke, so I am on the lookout for some more to share.
Oh, I was also going to say thank you, our new listener, Madison. She gave me a book recommendation, which I haven't gotten yet because I had to request it from the library. Mm-hmm. Thank you for the suggestion because I love those. I'm also reading...
What is it?
Oh, sorry. Hold on, I'll tell you.
Epic fail.
I know. It's called The Secret History by Donna Tartt.
Okay.
And she said it was one of her favorite books that she read last year. And it's about a group of elite college scholars who get who get up to no good.
Okay.
And it's a hefty read, but written very well.
Can dig it.
But also, I just have to let everyone know, because I'm obsessed with this now. I purchased Prince Harry's memoir the day it came out. I'm currently obsessively reading that. And it's very good. It's called Despair. It's a bestseller. It's a tell-all. Oh my gosh, there's so much tea to spill.
Not on this podcast.
Not on this podcast, but I mean, listen, if you're interested in the royal family, which I am, you can go read Spare by Prince Harry. Oh, my other announcement, which has nothing to do with the podcast, just a life announcement. There's a rooster that lives across the street from me now, and I hate him.
Okay.
I've named him Dudley, after a book that I think I read as a child called Cockadoodle Dudley. That's it.
Okay.
I have a vendetta against him. I'd like him gone if anyone...
Is he an early morning rooster?
No.
He's just an all-day rooster?
He just hangs out. He did attack the mailman the other day. He just hangs out between like 2 or 3 houses. and roams and crows occasionally, and I don't like him. I don't like his attitude. I don't like his tude.
Don't trust birds.
Yeah, so, okay. Well, be careful when you're leaving. Because there's a rooster. Okay. All right, well, you ready for today's episode?
Bring it.
Okay, great. We're drinking water, by the way, everyone.
Which is odd, because it was a very stressful drive home.
It's mostly because Katie forgot the wine. And because I don't have any wine. I have whiskey, though. You're welcome to the whiskey if you want it. I've already had 2 beers and a shot of whiskey today, so.
My brain is barely functioning.
All right, well, today I'm going to tell you, I'm really excited about this one, the story of Hannah Cranna.
Oh, man. Katie Wadey is excited.
And this is a local legend.
All right.
Not local to us, obviously. They never are. Local to Monroe, Connecticut.
Okay.
So, Monroe is in eastern Fairfield County, Connecticut. There's approximately 19,000 people in Monroe. It's known as I had to look this up, bedroom community.
I would also have to look that up.
Okay, great. It's a bedroom community to New York City, New Haven, and Bridgeport.
Oh, is it where a lot of people have, like, second homes or whatever?
It's where a lot of people live and then commute to those cities. Yeah. Which I guess I probably could have guessed if I had, like, maybe one more context clue.
I don't know.
But I was like, that's a weird term for that.
Yeah.
Bedroom community. And I almost didn't want to Google, what is a bedroom community?
See, like, if it was, like, a weekend community or something, then that might make more sense to me, because I've heard of colleges as, like, weekend schools or whatever. Yeah. Or something similar like that, where a lot of students live close enough that, you know, they live on campus or near campus.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, in the dorms Monday through Friday, but then they go home for the weekend.
Yeah. I guess it's like, is it Alexandria or, like, the cities around D.C. where people live and then commute to D.C., I guess. Monroe is also the home. This is just a fun fact that has nothing to do with the story, but it's listed on their Wikipedia page. It's the home of Ed and Lorraine Warren and their museum.
Delightful.
Of oddities. Okay, so Hannah Cranna. I'm just going to say, not just because we have the same name, because I think that she is a badass. I would love to think that this is who I was in a past life. Okay. So we don't know what Hannah's surname was, because we don't know her maiden name. Her married name was Hannah Hovey. She was born in 1783 in Monroe, Connecticut. And we don't know really anything about her early life, but we know that she married Captain Joseph Hovey probably at a young age, because
it's the 1700s.
The late 1700s. Yeah, so she's probably like 15. But they didn't have any children, whether that was by choice or
probably not
by fate. So one day, Captain Hovey went for an evening walk, and during his walk, something happened. He became disoriented, or like had a medical episode or something, and he fell off a rocky cliff to his death.
Ooh.
And the people of Monroe found his death very suspicious. And because
maybe he had poison porridge.
Because he had taken these evening walks several times, and he was very familiar with the area. And they couldn't fathom that
even experienced hikers have accidents. Come on, give Hannah Cranna some cred.
But they couldn't fathom how he could simply...
This man could have an accident.
Yeah, just have fallen off of a cliff. And the only explanation, they reasoned, was that his wife, Hannah, had placed a curse on him.
Oh, so we got a witch. All right.
Yeah. So after that point, the people of Monroe began calling the widow Hannah Cranna. So Cranna...
does that mean something, or are they just rhyming it literally like Katie Matey?
That's a great question. None of the stories that I read really gave an explanation. So I Googled Cranna. In Scottish, it means rocky or lofty place. So I was like, okay, maybe he fell on some rocks.
That one's a stretch.
That's kind of a dark nickname to give someone. Mm-hmm. In Irish, cran, like CHRANN, means tree or pole.
Getting further. Colder.
And then my last explanation is what you said. Maybe it just rhymes. So, I don't know.
Well, I wonder if it was the start of like a kids like nursery rhyme thing, like Cinderella dressed in yellow went upstairs to kiss a fella, whatever.
I forgot about that until just now. You like woke something up inside my brain.
I stirred something. I hope this doesn't awaken something in me.
What else? How can you finish that?
Cinderella dressed in yellow went upstairs to kiss a fella, made a mistake and kissed a snake. How many doctors did it take?
Oh my gosh. I was just like 9 years old again, skipping rope.
And there's others, and I'll think of them later. But, I'm wondering if it's not like, if it started as like some sort of kids, cautionary tale, like nursery rhyme, sing-songy chant thing, like, Hannah Cranna did something bad. Made her husband fall and hexed her husband, and he fell bad.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just want to point out to everyone, banana does rhyme with Hannah.
Yeah, but that's silly, and witches aren't silly.
I mean, I would argue witches are silly.
No, Hannah Banana is silly, good fun. Hannah Cranna is like cranky, crazy Hannah.
Yeah.
Crazy Hannah. Putting hexes on her husbands.
Cranna does kind of sound like cranky and
crazy.
Like cantankerous and
crazed.
All right, well, whatever. Well, they started calling her Hannah Cranna for some reason. So, an important thing to note. So she was born, what do we say, 1783. Mm-hmm. So, you remember our episode on the Salem witch trials?
Yes.
Okay. So, those happened in 1692. And right after the witch trials, the famous witch trials, the most famous ones, the public stance on witches, or at least publicly accusing them and taking them to trial, had pretty drastically changed. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to give you like a little brief history, because if I had to read it, so do you. All right.
No, see, that's why we listen, is that you give us the abridged version.
Well, this is abridged. It's this big on my notes. All right. So very soon after the tragedy that resulted in 21 deaths, 19 of which were executions, people began to see that that they were wrong in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
As early as that same year, 1692, a Boston minister named Samuel Willard published, I don't know if it was a book or a pamphlet. We're going to say pamphlet because you want to hear the name of it?
It probably is a pamphlet if it has an absurd name.
All right, it's called Some Miscellany Observations on Our Present Debates Respecting Witchcrafts in a Dialogue Between S and B. Which
that's definitely a pamphlet.
S and B was thought to be Salem and Boston.
Okay.
In it, he refuted the procedures and standards of evidence used in the trials, such as spectral evidence, which was claiming to see like a specter or a ghost. Sight and touch evidence, which was when I would say, Katie's a witch, we'll prove it. She looked at me. I'm falling into a fit. Because she's looking at me. Or if she's touching me. I'm falling into a fit. Or testimony of confessed witches. Because those can't be trusted.
Yeah. Or coerced or anything.
Yeah. And it's funny because the reasoning behind these wasn't like, well, you can't do sight and touch evidence because, like, obviously those people could be faking it. It was like...
It was refuting the bad logic with other bad logic.
Yeah, it was like,
Yeah.
Well, the devil is more crafty than that and can't be fooled by such simple tests. So, like,
oh gosh.
Okay, well, we're part of the way there. So, like,
well, at least we're not convicting innocent people of things.
Yeah.
Still have some more work to do on the whole rational thinking thing.
Yeah.
But this is probably a step in the right direction. At least people aren't dying anymore.
Yeah.
So, like, we'll take it as a win.
Yeah. It is very funny, like, reading through the history of, like, how they got from Salem witch trials to, like, okay, that was stupid, we shouldn't have done that. Because they really don't come around to, like, oh, those girls were probably definitely lying. It really kind of ends up being, like, Satan was deceiving those girls. They just thought that the other girls were witches. It's like, no, they were just brats that got off on a power trip. Like, okay. In 1694, Reverend Samuel Parris publicly confessed to his own wrongdoing in the trials, as did the jury and Judge Samuel Seball. In 1700, Robert Califf published a book called More Wonders of the Invisible World, The Supposed Witchcraft in New England, which was a response to a book that Cotton Mather, remember him?
Mm-hmm.
He had written a book called Wonders of the Invisible World, which defended the trials. So this other guy wrote a book called More Wonders of the Invisible World.
Opposite side of the same coin.
And in More Wonders of the Invisible World, Califf outright called the trials a sham and a fraud.
Hear, hear.
In 1711, the General Court of Massachusetts voted to financially compensate the victims of the trials. Don't know if they actually did that, but they voted to.
Mm-hmm.
And by 1720, this is a quote, all viewed the trials as an utter tragedy that could have been avoided had people merely followed common sense. Conclusion, summary. By this point, we were not accusing witches and bringing them to trial. But people still believed.
I mean, today people still believe in witches and witchcraft.
Right. But not
to the mass hysteria of...
Right. You know, not if someone's husband mysteriously dies, but...
Well, I don't know. Some people might.
I mean, we might think that person murdered their husband. But...
I'm pretty sure there's people out there that are still like, she's a witch. She put a hex on...
Yeah.
My cat.
Maybe. So, Hannah Cranna, or Hannah, never remarried. And without a husband to provide for her, she lived in relative poverty with her chickens. Her
familiars.
Yeah. Well, you can take a drink.
Yes.
Jumped ahead. With her chickens in a secluded home in the woods on Cragley Hill near present-day Cutter's Farm. I don't know where that is. I didn't get you a map.
Damn you.
I know. Her property was allegedly guarded by snakes, or it was in the woods where snakes are. Near her house, there was a large rock that had a cut in it that looked like a cloven hoof print, which... Gross.
Are we sure it wasn't just a manacle being dragged by a balloon? That left the mark?
We're never going to get over the manacle, are we?
And we can't call them handcuffs. They're manacles.
They're manacles, for sure. Also, I should have probably said, near her house, allegedly there was a large rock that had a cloven hoof print in it. She wore black mourning clothes for the rest of her life. She had a pet rooster named Old Boreas. Whatever. She had a pet rooster that allegedly only crowed at midnight.
Roosters crow all throughout the day.
All the fucking time. Good for her for living away from other people. Mm-hmm. And she was known to be pleasant to those she liked and unpleasant to those that she didn't like.
So, a person.
Yes. So, she's living in like an isolated place with a bunch of chickens and a rooster, and she wears black, and she's like cranky if she doesn't like you, and so people are like, she's a witch.
Obviously.
So, what's likely happening? That Hannah probably knew about these rumors. Mm-hmm. And Hannah's a smart girl. And she, I like to think, embraced the rumors. And I
totally would.
I would too, right?
I would absolutely be the scary witch that lives in the woods.
Well, okay. She has no way to provide for herself, right? Mm-hmm. Her husband is dead. Mm-hmm. It's the early 1800s probably at this point. She's a woman.
She starts selling her services as a, quote, witch.
Almost, not quite. But she used people's, like, healthy fear of her mm-hmm. to her advantage. So it was a way to protect herself and a way to provide for herself. So, for example, if she needed, like, firewood or food or something, and a neighbor wasn't willing to help her...
Was she, like, extorting people?
Yes! She would, like, lean into the witch thing and, like, be a little bit more witchy to, like, persuade them.
Shame if your crops all of a sudden just died.
Right? She'd just be like, well... Like, she'd just kind of, like, mumble something that sounded like a curse on her. You know? Like... Yep. Like, fuck yeah, Hannah.
Hell yeah.
What else is she supposed to do?
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah. Like, for sure I am in support of this.
1,000%. All right, so here are some of the legends of, like...
things that she's done.
Things that she's done.
All
right, so one day Hannah asked... I love this because I would do this. One day Hannah asked a neighbor who was known for her delicious baked goods mm-hmm. for a pie because this neighbor had just made a whole bunch of pies. And the neighbor gave Hannah the smallest one and probably like the one that was kind of burnt and like mm-hmm. janky. And Hannah was like, could I have a different one? And the neighbor said, no.
I don't know. Right now I'm kind of on team neighbor. Like, she's not offering a trade or anything. Like,
she's a poor widow. And so Hannah cursed her. Hannah cursed her so that none of her pies were ever as good as they had been before. And probably still left with the one little pie.
Petty.
One version says that she cursed her so that she was never able to bake again. Mm. Which could either mean that she...
I would use that as an excuse to be like, sorry, hun, can't bake anymore. A witch put a curse on me. It's just, I can't do it. Sorry.
I like to think that that's vague enough that she either, like, could bake, but her stuff never turned out well, mm-hmm. or, like, she had a horrible accident and she was, like, never physically able to bake again.
Or anytime she would try and dump ingredients, her hands would stop working and they'd...
Oh my gosh, she just got Parkinson's disease.
Because that's what it looks like with the motions that I was doing.
Okay. Well, you are onto something because I have like a list of possible explanations later for these. So that's a good one.
So maybe you were Hannah Cranna in a past life and I was one of your friends, so I'm aware of all the shenanigans you were up to.
Yeah, and you're telling me that I was being petty for cursing someone who wouldn't give me a good pie.
I'm not saying I disagree with it. I'm just labeling it as petty. And calling a spade here.
Maybe Hannah always looked out for this neighbor and...
Maybe.
You know, maybe she always gave her some eggs from her chickens.
Well, and see, that's the thing. Maybe, you know, she's like, I'll give you some eggs to bake pies and stuff. Can I have a pie in exchange? Like, yeah.
Yeah, and her neighbor was a little bitch and said, yeah, take the smallest one.
Take my dinky pie.
Yeah, get out here. Another story tells of Hannah catching a man trespassing on her property to fish in her stream without permission.
I'm feeling more pettiness here.
Well, I know all about this now because I don't know if you've been hearing the stories of Connor.
Yeah.
So my brother-in-law recently purchased some land and has been dealing with trespassers on it. And him and Jarek secretly love chasing trespassers. When we were out there
they like the drama of it.
They do. When they had like a fire a couple weeks ago.
I was there.
No, you weren't, because I was there.
Okay, maybe it was it was week before last. Yeah. At least I was there for a while.
Okay, well, you weren't there when I was there.
It wasn't this past Friday, but last Friday.
Yeah, when were you there?
Earlier. When the fire was big.
Oh, okay, so we came after you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we were out there, and an unfamiliar car drove up, and you should have seen how quick those Parch Boys, like, jumped in that stupid gator thing and, like, drove off. They were so serious. And we were just like, okay, bye. We'll all stay here. Don't worry. And it was just some girl doing, like, a DoorDash delivery or something, and the map literally told her to cut through this part of the whatever. Okay, so some guy's fishing on her property. So Hannah catches him, naturally gives him a curse. And this man, you want to guess?
Can't fish anymore.
Never caught a fish again. Never. Which, to me, reminded me a lot of Cora, our other favorite witch. But she could just outfish the other guys. Another time, there were two men who were driving their cart past her house, and they stopped just to make fun of her. So we're getting more malicious as we go.
See, but that's just them being petty now. So I support whatever revenge she does.
Okay. So one version of the story says that they mockingly asked Hannah for a sign of her magic. And Hannah said, well, before you reach that tree over there, you'll have your answer. And when they went to leave, their oxen refused to move, and the wheels of their cart fell off.
She probably saw that there was something wrong with the cart and was like, I can capitalize on this.
Yes! Okay. So you're reading ahead, I swear. All right. So again, what I think is likely the case, whether or not there's any truth to these stories, is that probably anytime, so there's rumors going on about Hannah being a witch. Anytime someone would have an encounter with Hannah that was like negative in any way or weird in any way, and then they had any kind of misfortune, it was confirmation bias, right? So that misfortune was obviously a curse that Hannah had placed on them. Also, it could have been like psychological. So,
well, it's that like it's like the power of suggestion, basically.
Yes. Yeah. So if someone says, okay, I'm cursing you and you're never going to make a pie as good as this ever again, now it's gotten in your head.
Yep.
And
every pie that you make, you're like, oh my gosh, this is it's good, it's okay, but it's not as good.
Yeah. And either you're you're losing your confidence, or the people who are eating your pies now have it in their head
that it's not as
good.
Well, that, or, you know, like, I'm just like a bland curse. And, you know, like, some small misfortune happens and you're like, oh crap, it's the curse. And then so now you start like looking for and seeing all these misfortunes more and more and more. It's kind of like when you get a new car, you see that same car everywhere. Yeah. Like, oh, I just bought a Jeep and now there's Jeeps everywhere and I never noticed them before. Yeah. Same thing. Like, I've been hexed. Now all the bad things are happening.
Yes. And then I literally wrote, perhaps Hannah was able to see that the wheels of the cart were about to fall off.
Or maybe they were just going to be driving through like a muddy, boggy area that like just causes issues and would also make the oxen be like, I'm not going to pull this.
Well, and also if the wheels fell off first, then the oxen aren't going to move.
Clearly are not going to be pulling. They're not dragging that. No way.
They're not stupid. They're stubborn. They're not stupid. That's right. So Hannah was formerly accused of witchcraft at some point in her life. Technically, the charge was consorting with the devil, which I love. But it never went to trial. Legend says, I love this so much, that when the officials came to her house to arrest her, they told her the charge, and she laughed in their faces, and then she turned around.
She sick her rooster on them?
Nope. She pulled her skirts up and mooned them.
This was definitely you in a past life.
Or Jarek, maybe.
That too. He
He
does have a history of showing off his ass.
Does, yeah. Everyone has seen it.
Okay.
Including all of our patrons. The officials, perhaps not wanting to further anger her, just didn't push the issue, and they left. She wasn't all bad. She wasn't just a bad witch.
I don't think she's bad.
No.
I think, she had some just negative encounters.
Yeah. But she was also, besides known to put curses on people that kind of bothered her, she was also known as a skilled healer. There's a story that she mended a farmer's broken leg, and she nursed a child back to health after the child fell into a lake or a body of water and almost drowned. And that reminds me of I think it was a TikTok I saw of it was if I went back in time to the 1700s, and it was this guy that went back and I can't remember it, but it was I'm going to be the town doctor. And he's listen, I've got a bottle of ibuprofen. And he's what are you doing? You cut that guy's leg off? Why? He's okay, you have a headache. How are you treating it? You're bleeding him? Okay, stop doing that. He's take this ibuprofen. Don't chew it. I don't know why I didn't think I had to tell you that. But it's yeah, just go back in time with a bottle of ibuprofen. You'll probably be called a witch. It's fine. Just go back after the 1700s and you'll be fine.
Have you seen that TikTok that I feel like I've mentioned on here before, where it's how ibuprofen nowhere pain?
No.
That's the question. And the guy reads the question, he goes, ibuprofen have secret. And he goes, ibuprofen not nowhere pain. Ibuprofen have secret. Ibuprofen inhibit cocks. Ibuprofen everywhere.
It's true, though.
Let's see if I can look it up.
Okay.
And play it for you later.
Please do, because I live with ibuprofen. Okay. In 1859, old Boreas, whatever, the rooster, died. Which I don't know how old the rooster was. Seems like he was pretty old, though. The rooster died, and many people thought that this rooster that only crowed at midnight had been her familiar. And when the rooster died, Hannah allegedly told a neighbor that she would die very soon. Do you have it?
I think so.
Okay.
Ibuprofen nowhere pain.
How ibuprofen nowhere pain? Ibuprofen have secret. Ibuprofen not nowhere pain. Ibuprofen everywhere. Whole body. Ibuprofen inhibit cocks. No pain. Only notice where pain. Science.
Ibuprofen have secret. Ibuprofen everywhere.
Ibuprofen everywhere. Oh, gosh.
All right, so rewind back to the rooster.
In 1859, old Boreas, the rooster, dies. Which we don't know how old he is, but I feel like very old.
I mean, it's in his name.
Oh, yeah, true. Although
he probably wasn't always old. He probably just a young Boreas, and then just Boreas, and then
true.
Started getting up on his... Anyway.
Okay, so many people thought that the rooster had been her familiar. So, as Katie did. Technically, you thought the chickens were. It was just the rooster.
That's true, because I don't think I knew about the rooster at the time.
Which, I think maybe that's why I had such an aversion to Dudley the rooster.
If Boreas was your familiar, shouldn't you still have an affinity?
I don't know. I think it's just a strong emotional reaction to the rooster.
Okay.
Maybe, I don't know. I fucking hate that rooster, though. And I won't be upset if he's in the road and you hit him with your car when you leave.
Well, I won't swerve.
Okay.
I've got enough car troubles as is. I don't need to be
true.
causing accidents to avoid roosters.
I'll have to tell you. Maybe I'll tell you after this, and we can make it a Patreon thing. I'll have to tell you a story about the rooster. So, Hannah allegedly told a neighbor after old Boreas died that this meant that she was gonna die pretty soon. Hannah, not the neighbor. And she said when she died, She wanted her coffin carried to her gravesite by hand, and that she should not be buried before sunset. I don't know why she had these rules, but she did. And the following day, Hannah Cranna died at the age of 76 or 77. It was winter time and it had snowed really heavily.
So that's going to make burying her at all super fun.
Yeah. And so the people were like, "F this. We are going to put her on a sled and pull her to her gravesite."
Yeah, that's not what she asked for.
Ha ha ha. So they put her coffin on a sled, started to pull it. Coffin slides off the sled. So they were like, okay, put it back on the sled. Some stories said people sat on it to like keep it on there.
Hannah Cranna said no.
Yeah. Start off again. Coffin slides off, flips over, opens up.
Hannah rolls out.
Possibly might have rolled out. Her cold, dead eyes are like looking at everyone.
Like, I
accusingly.
told you to carry me, not sled me.
Like dead-eyed, literally looking into their souls. And then at that point, everyone's like, all right, guys, you think we'll just carry her. It's cool.
This is more effort than just carrying her.
So they gave up. They carried her coffin the rest of the way. And by the time they got to the gravesite, it was after sunset. So she was buried after sunset.
So she got both of her wishes after all.
Yes. And when they returned to her house, they got another surprise because her house was on fire.
I was going to guess on fire.
Really?
Yes, I was literally about to say it when you were like, her house was, and I was going to go, on fire.
Yep. Just burning to the ground.
You know what? You were Hannah Cranna, and I was Hannah Cranna's best friend.
Yay! Maybe you were old Boreas.
No, I don't trust birds.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's why you have such an emotional reaction to them. No. You were a bird in a past life.
I'm not a bird.
Maybe you were the lady I cursed for the pies.
Maybe, but I think I might have been, maybe it was my kid who you nursed back to health.
Oh, okay. We'll go with that.
Or maybe we had a positive
maybe your husband broke his leg farming. There we go.
Seems like something Sheldon would do.
So the mysterious fire, which by the way was too far into burning the house down for anyone to do anything. They were just like, oh, we'll just let it go.
But also like, who was gonna live there anyway?
And what are they gonna do? It's the 1800s.
Do you save it for the chickens?
Yeah, they're fine. You get some fried chicken. So this final event kind of confirmed everyone's suspicions. They're like, well, if
she's a witch.
Pranking us with her grave stuff.
What else floats? Wood. What does wood do? Burn.
It burns.
Oh no, witches burn. What else burns? Wood. What else does wood do?
It floats. Oh, I should have mentioned at the beginning, she actually did weigh the same as a duck. That was confirmed.
Well, then why did we even speculate? Why even bother collecting the evidence of these other stories?
Very bottom of the list. Sorry. It would have been a short episode.
Then why did they even bother with a sled if she only weighed as much as a duck?
It's
absurd.
Snow. I don't know.
Lazy men.
I know. So Hannah is buried in Gregory's Four Corners Burial Ground on Spring Hill Road in Trumbull, Connecticut. And the gravestone is apparently a replica, which bums me out. I don't know what happened to the original. I only saw one place that it was a replica. It looks real. And it says Hannah Cranna, which I'm like, y'all couldn't put...
I mean, I don't know. I feel like... How long between her husband's death and her death?
I don't know, because I didn't look up when her husband died. Because I didn't care about him that much.
Because, I mean, if it was, 10 years, then, yeah, that's not cool. But if it was, 30 years that she's, not only living with, but, really leaning into this persona.
Yeah.
She really, then, yeah, Hannah Cranna.
Yeah,
sure.
If more people knew her as Hannah Cranna than Hannah Hovey.
Yeah, and, it doesn't sound like it was really, nasty or mean or anything.
That's true.
It seems more of like a, like the small town living kind of thing, like, oh, and that's the town drunk, and then there's the town witch. Hey, Hannah Cranna. Like, a cautionary tale to children, like, oh, don't go play in her yard or she'll hex you. And really it's just manipulating children into behaving.
Yeah. Be nice to your neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah, respect her.
So, she probably, like you said, she really leaned into this persona.
Yeah.
So.
Which is not a bad...
She achieved celebrity status.
Well...
what do you think Madonna's tombstone is going to say? Madonna?
That's a good question. Did you... Okay.
What about Lady Gaga's tombstone?
Well, we all know her real name, though. I don't know Madonna's real name.
Yeah, I can't think of it either.
I mean, Jennifer Lopez technically changed her name to Jennifer Affleck, which I think is a regretful decision. I don't think it was the best decision to make, but, I mean, maybe when she dies, her tombstone will say Jennifer Affleck.
Who knows? Who knows?
Maybe.
All I'm saying is, she achieved celebrity status.
This is true.
As Hannah Cranna.
That's
so
true.
Just roll with it.
That's a good question, is what's Madonna's tombstone gonna say? I don't know.
We're gonna have to wait and find out.
All right, well.
And if she dies soon, I'm blaming you 100%.
Me?
You're Hannah Cranna reincarnate. So
I restarted the year.
Yeah, like a witch. And you did that, and then my car died.
And I fell down in front of a bunch of people. That's true. Okay. All right. Well, we can do another restart, a hard restart. We could restart in February.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, whatever.
We'll do that.
Well, Hannah's headstone lists her death date as 1959 to 1960. Like
19?
Sorry, 18. I wrote 19. 18,
she was real old.
1859 to 1860. This is really sad. Some people think that this means that the legend of her burial just isn't true, and that she died alone
in the winter and nobody checked on her for a while.
In the winter of 1959, and that her body wasn't discovered until the following spring. Which,
it's possible.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, it's Connecticut, and she lived in an isolated place.
Probably decently preserved.
This is true, depending on how late into the spring she was discovered. She also lived with chickens. I don't know.
Well, I doubt they were in her house. I mean, unless she died while feeding them.
They could probably get to her house, don't you think?
I doubt it.
I don't know. I'm thinking of like a Hagrid's hut situation.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking of there's an actual pen and a roost.
I'm thinking of the rooster across the street that's just free roaming.
Free range chickens.
Well, regardless of whatever is true, there are still stories of Hannah Cranna to this day. People say that the ghostly figure of a woman will sometimes appear in the graveyard, and it apparently sets out to distract oncoming cars and cause accidents, which I'm going to go on record saying that doesn't sound like Hannah Cranna to me.
No.
Maybe it's some other
I mean, I feel like she never really just went after anybody.
No.
It was always in, retaliation, retribution.
Yeah.
So I feel like those cars obviously have to be doing something to piss her off.
Yeah, if it is Hannah, then she knows something about the drivers.
She's got a reason.
Yeah, she has a reason, so.
Road trip?
Yeah. I've always wanted to go to Connecticut.
Yeah.
So.
I want to go to Starth Hollow.
Where's that?
The fictional town from Gilmore Girls.
Oh. I just want to go up to New England and enjoy.
Let's go peeping.
Okay.
Leaf peeping.
Yes. In the fall. But that's the story of Hannah Cranna. Do you want to tell people our socials?
No.
Oh, okay. Well.
You can find all photos from this episode, aka the non-existent ones that Hannah didn't get for me.
I'll put a picture of me.
There we go. Pictures and other fun stuff can be found on our Instagram and Facebook at the Tales We Tell Podcast. If you want to see photos but don't do the social media, you can go to our website, thetaleswetellpodcast.com. And you can also email us there if you have any, suggestions or comments or feedback, or you can email thetaleswetellpodcast@gmail.com. You can also support us, get yourself some sweet swag until we get our own online store set up at redbubble.com. We've got several logos, and you can get that shit on everything.
Hell yeah.
Or you can become a patron at patreon.com. You get access to commercial-free listening, early episodes, bonus content, stickers, and our undying love and affection.
Yep. And we'll be back next week with something else. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.